One moment of routine work, one hidden danger. That's all it took to transform ordinary days into the 6 weirdest deaths ever recorded. It was March 15, 2017, when Madeline Harper's dedication to perfection would become her undoing in the most unexpected way. Madeline, a 28-year-old maintenance technician for Frozen Delight Inc., had built her reputation on being the go-to expert for the company's most challenging equipment failures. Standing 5 feet 4 inches with calloused hands and an engineer's mind, she approached every repair with methodical precision that had earned her respect in a male-dominated field. Her colleagues knew her as someone who preferred working alone, believing that 2 technicians often meant twice the confusion. The call came in late that Tuesday evening about a problematic industrial frozen yogurt machine at East Side Mall in Portland, Oregon. The unit had been plaguing the location for weeks with intermittent pressure buildups that caused inconsistent product quality. Store managers complained that the relief valve kept sticking, creating operational headaches during peak hours. Harper arrived at the darkened mall at 11:47 p.m., her company van's headlights cutting through the March drizzle. Security footage captured her confident stride as she carried her familiar red toolkit, wearing the navy blue Frozen Delight uniform she'd worn for 3 years. The mall's empty corridors echoed with her footsteps as she made her way to the frozen yogurt kiosk. The machine stood like a stainless steel monument in the dim emergency lighting. Harper immediately recognized the symptoms. Pressure readings showed the system had been running hot, and the relief valve mechanism showed signs of mineral buildup from Portland's hard water. She began her standard lockout procedure, methodically disconnecting power sources and pressure lines according to company protocol. What Harper didn't realize was that the maintenance manual she'd relied on for 2 years contained a critical error. A secondary pressure line, running parallel to the main system, had been mislabeled in the technical drawings. While she carefully isolated what she believed were all pressure sources, 65 psi of force remained trapped in the overlooked line, nearly double the system's normal operating pressure. At 12:23 a.m., Harper positioned herself directly in front of the main pressure release valve. Her wrench turned with practiced efficiency, but as the valve assembly loosened, the mislabeled secondary line released its pent-up energy in a catastrophic failure. The metal valve assembly exploded outward like a projectile, traveling at approximately 45 miles per hour directly into her face and throat. The impact was devastating. The valve fractured her jaw and crushed her larynx, immediately blocking her airway. The force threw her backward onto the unforgiving concrete floor, where her head struck with enough force to cause severe skull fractures. Frozen yogurt mix erupted from the damaged system, coating the area in a sticky, slippery mess that would later complicate the emergency response. Harper's body was discovered at 6:15 a.m. by mall security during their routine morning rounds. The scene initially confused first responders, who struggled to navigate the hazardous yogurt-covered floor while attempting to understand what had occurred. The subsequent OSHA investigation revealed the tragic truth about the mislabeled maintenance manual that had been distributed to technicians across the company's service network. Frozen Delight Inc. faced $340,000 in federal fines and was forced to implement new safety protocols, requiring 2 technician teams for all pressure system repairs. Madeline Harper's death became a sobering reminder that even the most experienced professionals can fall victim to systemic failures beyond their control, transforming a routine late-night repair into a workplace tragedy that forever changed industry safety standards. It was September 8, 2018, when Chelsea Whitmore's lifelong fear of heights would become her final undoing in the most ironic way imaginable. Chelsea, a 34-year-old balloon artist from Albuquerque, New Mexico, had built her career around the very things that terrified her most. Despite suffering from severe acrophobia, she operated Skybound Celebrations, a novelty balloon business that brought joy to countless children's parties. Her specialty was creating massive character balloons that floated majestically above birthday celebrations. A perfectionist by nature, Chelsea was meticulous about every detail of her craft. She had spent years mastering the delicate balance between helium ratios and balloon materials, always pushing boundaries. Her backyard workshop was filled with colorful latex creations, each one a testament to her artistic vision. As the annual Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta approached, Chelsea was preparing her most ambitious project, a colossal 15-foot SpongeBob SquarePants balloon for a major client's corporate event. She had been experimenting with ultra-lightweight helium mixtures, hoping to achieve unprecedented buoyancy. That Saturday afternoon around 3:30 p.m., Chelsea was in her backyard workshop, carefully inflating the massive yellow balloon. The SpongeBob creation was nearly complete, its cartoon features taking shape as helium filled the specially designed chambers. What she hadn't anticipated was how the balloon's enormous size would react to desert winds. As Chelsea worked to secure the balloon to a heavy concrete anchor block, she became entangled in the complex network of guide ropes. The ropes, designed to keep the balloon stable during inflation, wrapped around her waist and legs as she maneuvered around the massive creation. Without warning, a powerful 35-mile-per-hour wind gust struck the area, common for September afternoons in New Mexico. The combination of the balloon's massive surface area and the ultra-light helium mixture created the perfect storm. The SpongeBob balloon, with Chelsea still entangled in its anchor lines, was lifted violently into the air. Neighbors watched in horror as Chelsea was carried approximately 200 feet above the residential neighborhood, her small frame dangling helplessly from the ropes. For nearly 4 agonizing minutes, witnesses could see her struggling desperately to free herself, her acrophobia making the situation even more terrifying. The balloon's fabric, not designed to handle such stress, began showing signs of failure at 180 feet altitude. Small tears appeared in the material, causing rapid decompression and erratic movement. The balloon lurched and spun unpredictably as helium escaped through the growing ruptures. Then, catastrophically, Chelsea fell. Her body plummeted at terminal velocity, impacting a concrete driveway 3 blocks from her workshop. The fall resulted in complete skeletal fractures and massive internal organ damage, killing her instantly. The partially deflated SpongeBob balloon continued drifting before coming to rest several blocks away. Emergency responders arrived within 8 minutes, but could only confirm what witnesses already knew. The incident, captured on multiple cell phone videos, quickly went viral, spreading across social media platforms within hours. The tragedy prompted New Mexico to implement stricter safety regulations for commercial balloon operations. The irony of Chelsea's fate was not lost on those who knew her best. A woman who had spent her entire adult life afraid of heights, yet dedicated her career to creating objects that soared through the sky, had ultimately been claimed by the very thing she both feared and loved most. It was June 22, 2016, when Amber Callahan's perfectionist nature would ultimately seal her fate in the most horrific way imaginable. The 31-year-old senior escalator technician had built an impeccable reputation over her 12-year career with Metropolitan Elevator Services. Colleagues knew her as meticulous, detail-oriented, and someone who had never recorded a single safety violation. Her expertise made her the go-to person for Chicago's most challenging mechanical problems. That night, Union Station's main escalator had been producing disturbing grinding noises for weeks. Multiple repair attempts had failed to resolve the intermittent issues plaguing the aging 1970s-era system. The station management finally called Callahan for what they hoped would be a definitive solution. Security footage captured her arrival at 2:15 a.m., carrying specialized diagnostic equipment through the nearly empty terminal. The timing was perfect for maintenance work, with minimal passenger traffic and full access to the mechanical systems. She had specifically requested the overnight shift to avoid disrupting the thousands of daily commuters who relied on this critical transportation hub. Callahan descended into the escalator's mechanical pit beneath the moving stairs, immediately identifying the source of the problem. Several critical safety bolts had sheared completely off, causing the main drive chain to slip dangerously out of alignment. The situation was worse than anyone had anticipated, requiring immediate intervention to prevent complete system failure. Working alone due to overnight staffing limitations, she began adjusting the tension mechanism to realign the heavy steel chain. The older escalator lacked modern safety features that would have automatically shut down the system during maintenance. As she maneuvered around the complex machinery, her safety harness somehow became entangled in the gear assembly. The mechanical system continued operating, slowly but relentlessly pulling her deeper into the machinery. The massive gears began crushing her pelvis and lower torso, while the moving chains created devastating lacerations across her body. Despite her desperate attempts to reach the manual emergency stop, the positioning made it impossible. For approximately 90 seconds, Callahan remained conscious as the machinery systematically destroyed her body. The crushing injuries to her vital organs combined with massive blood blood loss finally ended her suffering. A maintenance janitor making his rounds at 5:45 a.m. noticed blood seeping from beneath the escalator platform. The horrific discovery launched an immediate emergency response, but it was far too late for rescue efforts. Emergency crews faced an unprecedented challenge extracting her body from the complex machinery, requiring 4 grueling hours of careful work to avoid further damage to her remains. The scene was so traumatic that several first responders required psychological counseling. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the elevator maintenance industry. Union Station immediately implemented mandatory buddy system protocols for all escalator maintenance work, ensuring no technician would ever work alone again. Additional emergency stop systems were installed throughout the facility, along with comprehensive safety equipment upgrades. Callahan's death became a catalyst for nationwide changes in escalator maintenance procedures, transforming industry standards to prevent similar tragedies. Her perfectionist approach to safety, ironically, became the foundation for protecting future generations of maintenance workers from the mechanical monsters they serviced daily. It was August 14, 2019, when Shannon Briggs stepped into what would become her final challenge in Las Vegas, Nevada. The 29-year-old competitive eater had built her reputation through sheer determination and an almost reckless appetite for pushing boundaries. Ranked 8th nationally in hot dog eating contests, Shannon possessed an aggressive eating style that made her a crowd favorite and social media sensation. Her personality was a perfect storm of ambition and fearlessness. Working part-time as a fitness instructor while pursuing competitive eating full-time, Shannon had spent months methodically building her tolerance to increasingly spicy foods. She approached each challenge with the precision of an athlete, viewing her stomach as a weapon and her throat as a battlefield to be conquered. Friends described her as relentlessly competitive, someone who never backed down from a dare or admitted defeat in any circumstance. The private hot pepper challenge seemed like another stepping stone toward viral fame. 8 whole ghost peppers, each packing 1 million Scoville units of heat, needed to be consumed within 5 minutes. Shannon had never attempted peppers this extreme, but her confidence overshadowed any hesitation. The camera rolled as she began her assault on the fiery gauntlet, her trademark smirk betraying no fear of the inferno awaiting her determined spirit. For 4 minutes, Shannon dominated the challenge with characteristic aggression. 6 ghost peppers disappeared down her throat as she powered through the mounting inferno in her mouth. The concentrated capsaicin began its destructive work immediately, creating chemical burns along her esophagus and stomach lining. Her body's natural defenses kicked in with violent retching, but the thick pepper paste clung stubbornly to her throat like molten tar, refusing to be expelled from her burning system. During one particularly forceful vomiting episode, the combination of pepper residue and stomach acid created a perfect storm of destruction. The pressure ruptured her esophagus in what medical professionals call Boerhaave syndrome. Stomach contents began leaking into her chest cavity, creating a toxic environment that her body couldn't survive. The rupture was catastrophic, measuring nearly 2 inches in length. Shannon's chest exploded with pain as fluid accumulated around her lungs. Her breathing became labored and desperate. The shock set in with terrifying speed as internal bleeding combined with chemical peritonitis from the leaked stomach contents. Within 12 minutes of the rupture, her heart stopped beating, her body finally surrendering to the overwhelming assault that had begun as entertainment but ended in tragedy. Her friends frantically called 911 when she collapsed, but the damage was already irreversible. Paramedics arrived to find Shannon in cardiac arrest, her body overwhelmed by the cascade of complications. Emergency surgery attempts confirmed the devastating esophageal rupture, but it was too late to save the ambitious young woman who had pushed one boundary too far in pursuit of fleeting internet glory. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the competitive eating community and social media platforms. Shannon's death became a stark reminder that viral fame isn't worth the ultimate price. Nevada subsequently implemented strict guidelines for supervised competitive eating events involving potentially dangerous foods, ensuring that future challengers would have medical oversight that might have saved Shannon's life and prevented similar tragedies from occurring. Her story serves as a haunting testament to how quickly ambition can turn deadly when combined with the human body's limitations and the unforgiving nature of extreme challenges that promise fame but deliver devastation instead. It was October 31st, 2015, when the Museum of Ancient Civilizations in Boston became the scene of a tragic workplace accident that would forever change their safety protocols. Naomi Garrison, a 26-year-old night security guard, had always been drawn to history's mysteries. A dedicated graduate student pursuing her master's degree in ancient civilizations, she found her overnight security position at the museum to be more than just a paycheck. It was her personal gateway to the past. With her quiet, studious nature and genuine fascination for Egyptian culture, Naomi often spent her patrol breaks examining the exhibits, particularly the newly opened Egyptian tomb replica that had become the museum's crown jewel. The ambitious young woman had been working at the museum for 8 months, earning praise from supervisors for her attention to detail and genuine care for the artifacts. Her colleagues knew her as someone who took pride in her work, often going beyond basic security duties to ensure every display case was properly secured. For weeks leading up to that Halloween night, the museum had been experiencing subtle structural issues. Nearby subway construction had been causing minor vibrations throughout the building, creating barely perceptible tremors that gradually weakened mounting systems. While staff had noticed occasional loose fixtures, the full extent of the structural compromise remained hidden. At 11:30 p.m., Naomi began her final patrol rounds of the evening. The museum's corridors were eerily quiet, with only the soft hum of climate control systems breaking the silence. She made her way to the Egyptian exhibit, flashlight in hand, conducting her routine inspection with the same thoroughness that had made her a valued employee. The centerpiece of the exhibit was an impressive reproduction sarcophagus, complete with a 150-pound limestone lid that had been carefully mounted on a specialized display system. As Naomi approached the information placard to check for any signs of vandalism or tampering, she leaned forward over the display platform. In that moment, weeks of accumulated structural stress reached its breaking point. The mounting brackets, weakened by constant micro-vibrations from the construction work, finally gave way. The massive reproduction lid shifted suddenly on its mount, tilting at a dangerous angle before gravity took control. The limestone piece struck Naomi across the back of her head and shoulders with devastating force, driving her face first into the marble display platform below. The impact was catastrophic. Her skull fractured from the collision with the stone surface, while her cervical spine snapped from the tremendous weight pressing down on her. The heavy lid compressed her chest, making breathing impossible. Naomi lost consciousness immediately from the severe head trauma. Within 2 minutes, the combination of traumatic brain injury and cervical spine fracture proved fatal. The young woman, who had spent countless hours studying ancient burial practices, had become trapped beneath a reproduction of the very artifacts she admired. The morning shift supervisor discovered the scene at 7:20 a.m., initially believing the exhibit had been vandalized during the night. The sight of the collapsed display and Naomi's motionless form beneath the stone lid sent shockwaves through the museum staff. Emergency responders and museum personnel worked for 45 minutes to safely lift the reproduction lid, but it was far too late. Structural engineers later confirmed that construction vibrations had compromised multiple display mountings throughout the museum. The tragic loss of Naomi Garrison prompted immediate safety overhauls, including the installation of seismic monitoring systems and reinforcement of all heavy display installations. The dedicated graduate student's death served as a sobering reminder that even reproduction artifacts can pose deadly risks when proper safety measures fail. It was November 12th, 2017, when 33-year-old Courtney Baxter arrived at a residential property in Asheville, North Carolina, carrying mounting financial pressures. As a certified arborist with over a decade of experience, Baxter had built a reputation for meticulous tree removal, but recent economic struggles forced him to take on more jobs and cut preparation time. The towering 150-year-old oak tree stood like a monument, reaching nearly 80 feet into the crisp autumn sky. From outside, the massive trunk appeared solid and healthy, showing only minor signs of age. What Baxter couldn't see was extensive internal decay that had silently hollowed out the tree's core for decades, creating a hidden cavity that would become his tomb. Neighbors watched as he unloaded climbing gear and chainsaw equipment at 8 a.m., noting his professional demeanor despite his rushed timeline. The job seemed straightforward: remove the diseased oak threatening the nearby house. Standard procedure called for a top-down approach, systematically removing branches before tackling the main trunk. Baxter secured his harness and began ascending, experienced hands finding purchase on familiar bark. At 35 feet up, He positioned himself for the first major cut. Morning air filled with chainsaw roar as the blade bit into what appeared solid wood. Then everything went catastrophically wrong. The chainsaw blade suddenly broke through into empty space, the hollow interior that decades of rot had carved out. The trunk wall's structural integrity, already compromised by decay, couldn't withstand the sudden removal of supporting wood. A section collapsed inward with a sickening crack. Baxter plummeted through the opening into the tree's hidden cavity, a narrow prison approximately 20 inches wide and 8 feet deep. His climbing harness and rope, designed to save his life, became instruments of doom as they wedged against irregular interior walls. The confined space held him vertically, unable to move or adjust. Trapped within the wooden tomb, Baxter's desperate shouts were muffled by thick walls. His radio and phone remained frustratingly out of reach, arms pinned by narrow confines. The cruel irony wasn't lost. Imprisoned within the very tree he'd come to remove, its hollow heart becoming his final resting place, the restricted vertical position began taking its deadly toll. Unable to shift weight or change position, pressure on his chest and diaphragm gradually increased. Positional asphyxia, a silent killer claiming victims trapped in positions restricting breathing, began its relentless work. For approximately 45 minutes, Baxter fought against his wooden prison, breathing becoming increasingly labored as his body struggled against the unnatural position. The century-and-a-half-old tree claimed its final victim, holding him in a hollow embrace until strength finally gave out. When Baxter failed to arrive at his 2 p.m. appointment, concern grew rapidly. His punctuality reputation made the absence immediately suspicious. Family members arrived at 4:30 p.m., finding his truck parked exactly where he'd left it. Faint sounds from within the massive oak seemed impossible. Rescue crews arrived with specialized cutting equipment, working frantically to create access. But precious time had run out. Baxter had succumbed hours earlier. The tragic incident sent shockwaves through the arborist community, highlighting hidden dangers even experienced professionals face. New safety protocols were immediately implemented, requiring thorough internal cavity assessments before cutting operations. Courtney Baxter's death serves as a sobering reminder that nature's beauty often conceals deadly secrets, and even the most experienced can fall victim to unexpected dangers lurking within seemingly routine tasks. If these bizarre tragedies left you speechless, prepare yourself for what's coming next. Click the video on your screen for more unbelievable stories of ordinary moments that turned deadly in the most unexpected ways.